Hi girls, I am jumping on live today to talk about a topic that I feel like does not get talked about often enough when it comes to fat loss after 40. It is all about emotional eating, and I will come to the what and the why in a minute. Apologies for being slightly late in my live today. I have a new puppy and he is currently being bribed with some peanut butter next to me, so you might hear him. This could all go pear-shaped, but I am just working on the basis that I tell my clients, which is progress over perfection and better done than perfect. So let's see how this goes. If you're joining me live, let me know. Just comment, just say you can hear me, you can see me, all of that. That's always really helpful. If you're watching the replay, comment replay. Let me know if you have any questions. I always come back in afterwards and have a look to see if anyone's got any questions that comes from this. And this is a really good one, so we might have some questions. So this is for you if you feel like you are good, I'll say that quote unquote good all day, and then the evening hits and it's a fridge free for all. Or maybe you're even on track all week long, and then come Friday night, things completely unravel. This is going to be so helpful for you, because if this is undoing your progress week in, week out, this has nothing to do with your metabolism or your hormones. And it's probably not even that you don't know what works anymore. It might be something that you're not even consciously noticing, but it's going to make a big difference to your progress over time. Now, one of the most common things I see in women over 40 is something that looks like this. You hit your protein, you train, you get your steps in, you're consistent Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. on Friday, and then nighttime hits or the weekend hits, and it might not even be this big dramatic, feast or free for all. It's just a bit of this and a handful of that, or something sweet after dinner, or standing in the kitchen with the fridge open, not even sure what you're looking for. We've all been there, just kind of picking. You're not even sure what it is that you want or are looking for, but you find yourself in front of the fridge or in front of the pantry, just searching for something. And by the end of the week, that calorie deficit is gone. And it's not because you failed or because you didn't have enough willpower. It's because a few high calorie evenings can mathematically wipe out 4 to 5 days of restraint within an hour or two. And most women aren't even fully aware that this is happening. So what I want to point out first is that this is not a willpower problem, right? So a lot of the time what I see is if this is happening, women think they just need to restrict harder. They just need to be more disciplined and be stricter and just stick to the plan even harder, but that can actually make the problem worse. So instead, I'm going to talk you through what it is we can do to address it. Now, firstly, I want to say, of course, this isn't obviously an exclusively women's over 40 issue, but it can feel much harder at this age. And a lot of my clients, a lot of women I speak to haven't had this problem pop up before this perimenopause or menopausal stage. The reason why is that because at 25 or even 35 probably, you had more energy, you recovered better, you weren't as mentally stretched or loaded, and your hormones buffered stress better, right? But at 45 or 55, most of the time you're more tired, you're juggling more, your sleep is worse, your stress is higher, and estrogen fluctuations affect dopamine and serotonin, some of those feel-good hormones we have. So I'm going to let you know in a minute why that matters. So these things mean that you're more likely to feel flat, you're more likely to feel wired but exhausted, you're more likely to crave comfort and reward at night. So that's just biology. That's got nothing to do with willpower or discipline. Now, as I said about estrogen, a lot of women don't realize that lower estrogen impacts your dopamine and serotonin. So in these times in perimenopause, where estrogen's all over the place, we've got times when it's high and times when it's really low, we can often feel that impact on our mood. In menopause, when estrogen falls off a cliff, we can really feel the impact on our mood and our feel-good hormones. So those neurotransmitters that regulate mood and motivation and satisfaction, they're impacted by that loss of estrogen. So, when you finally sit down at 8:30 at night after a really long day, your brain goes, give me something to calm me down if you're kind of really wired and tired, or give me something to give me some joy if you feel really flat. And food, it's fast, it's reliable, it's effective in the moment, which is why we keep coming back to it. So let's talk about the why. These are the two drivers that I see the most in terms of what's causing the emotional eating or the nighttime snacking. So when we strip it back, most of the time, nighttime eating falls into one of these two buckets. Number one is dopamine seeking. So this is when you're bored, you're flat, you're a bit understimulated, so you're looking for a bit of excitement. So you're not hungry, dinner was probably fine, it's filling. If you do a bit of a body scan and check, you might find that you're like, I'm actually not physically hungry, but you want something. Everything feels a bit boring and flat. So what do we reach for? Scrolling and snacks. We're scrolling our phone, doom scrolling, looking for some dopamine, some treat thrills. We're binging Netflix and snacks. We're looking through the cupboard, like what's exciting, what's gonna draw me in. So that's not about hunger, that's about stimulation. Like you want something to give you some excitement. Your brain wants a hit, right? And food provides that hit. The second one that's very common is the serotonin seeking. So this might look like you're stressed, you're rushed, you're overloaded, you've been on all day, and now you want calm, you want relief, you want to transition out of work mode. So again, a lot of what I hear is that you're working all day, you're going, and then you switch off at, I was going to say 5. No one switches off at 5 anymore, but you switch off at whatever time you finish work. And now you want that transition. You want calm, you want relief, you want transition out of work mode, and food can become the switch, right? And again, it works temporarily. That's why the habit forms, but it's not necessarily what we want to reach for if fat loss is a goal, because it can easily undo that deficit. So here's the uncomfortable bit that we're going to talk about anyway. Men and women think they're in a calorie deficit, but they're only in a calorie deficit during the day. They're only, I won't say eating, it's not even about eating well. It's about just physiology. How many calories are you consuming? How many calories are you expending? If you're eating several hundred calories at night just through some cupboard wandering, then you're not in a calorie deficit anymore, more than likely. So if you're slightly under eating Monday to Friday, and again, this is what I see quite commonly, you're being good all week, you're pushing through hunger, keeping meals small, being good, you're actually increasing the likelihood of that rebound at night because you're even more driven for the dopamine, for the serotonin. So, now you've got physical hunger added to this, underfueling, stress, lower dopamine, and fatigue. That's the perfect storm for that emotional eating, the nighttime snacking. And as I said, restricting harder just backfires. It makes the problem worse, not better. Now, I'm not going to go deep into the strategy of how we address all of this here. In our coaching call for the Goddess Project this week, we did go into some personalized strategies with my clients because that really has to be tailored depending on what is going on for you. I mean, it depends if someone is actually underfueling. Are they stress eating? Are they boredom eating? Are they running on some, perfection? So that work needs a bit of context, but what we can do here is create some awareness around why this is happening, because awareness is always the first step to change. So instead of asking, why can't I lose weight anymore? Why am I being, I'm being so good all week and then it unravels at night or on the weekends and I'm not even sure why. Let's start to get some curiosity around what's actually happening at nighttime or on weekends. So I want you to ask yourself these questions if you're standing in front of the cupboard tonight or on the weekend. Am I physically hungry? Like, do a bit of a body check. Am I physically hungry? Am I emotionally depleted? Am I understimulated? Do I need some excitement? Am I using food as my only off strategy? So we don't want to, it's very important here that there's no judgment on this. This is just about data. We need to collect the data to find out why this is happening, and then we can do something about it. So it's not about shame. It's not about cutting out snacks forever and never being able to have a biscuit after dinner. It's about recognizing that fat loss after 40, it has less margin for error, right? So we don't get away with the same patterns as we did in our 20s. Your body's going to expose that weak link. So if you're just overeating by a couple of hundred calories of a nighttime or a few hundred calories over the weekend, that's going to add up. That's going to cut into your deficit. It's going to be the difference between can you lose weight or will you stay the same or will you gain weight? And for many women that I see, you know, you're intelligent women, you're in this group, you've watched the information, you know what you need to do. So the weak link isn't knowledge. It's about emotional regulation, not about trying harder and just learning more. What else do I need to do? All right, if any of this hit close to home, that's not a bad thing. Just means you've identified something useful, hopefully, which is powerful. And once you see the pattern, then you can't unsee it. You'll see that it's there. You'll have some idea of what's causing it. And from then, change becomes possible. So if you're curious about what's actually driving that nighttime eating, comment curious. And then we can start to look at like those patterns, collect the data, and then change comes from there. Hopefully that was helpful, girls. And that's it. Poppy's been well behaved the whole live, so that's a win. I'll see you guys soon. Let me know if you have any questions, if you watch the replay or if you watch live, and see you guys next week. Bye.